Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. This is part 2 for this news report today. It's Thursday, April 11, 2013. I'm Darko. Not sure if I said it was Wednesday in the last video, but I think you know what day it is. North Korean missile launchpad moved into firing positions as reports. Some more scary news coming out. Although I think I doubt most of this when they say this about moved into firing position, because this was breaking news after I posted my videos last night. North Korean missile launcher has moved into firing position with rockets facing skyward. This Kyoto reports, citing a Japanese defense official. The government of Japan is on high alert, citing indications that Pyongyang might soon launch ballistic missiles at its island neighbor. Says defense minister said on Thursday morning that so far Tokyo is responding by gathering a variety of information with a sense of tension. The U.S. uses North Korea's antics to frighten Americans. The U.S. is using escalating tensions on the Korean Peninsula to frighten American citizens and persuade them that more money should be spent on militarizing the Pacific, says Michael Burns, an American political analyst. On Wednesday, U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said North Korea is skating very close to a dangerous line. So some experts say that the tensions are just an excuse for the U.S. to set up its military role in the Pacific. The antics by North Korea, and that's what they are, they're just simply antics, have resulted in nothing but white heat, highly combustible fuel for the American Defense Department and the Obama regime to frighten American citizens with cries of "Chicken Little, the sky is falling, troubles are in the Pacific, we need more money, we need more aircraft carriers," said Burns in the phone interview. So this does make sense, though, because I don't go out much, but the last 3 times I went out, I heard, "So what do you think about North Korea? Man, we got to do something about that North Korea. Man, I'm starting to worry. About North. That's what we need to be worried about. Man, we need to be worried about North Korea." I'm like, it's pretty scary that people are, again, they're having their thoughts, what they should be thinking about, what they should be concerned about, disseminated to them. Of course, I don't know why people ask me about what I think, because I'm not going to give them the answer that they want, right? So I don't even know what they think when I say stuff like that, when I give them what I personally think is the truth. British MP blames U.S. for tensions in Korean Peninsula. The British member of Parliament, George Galloway, has blamed the tensions on the Korean Peninsula on the United States, saying, "I'm much more afraid of the USA, and so are most of the people in the world," he said on comments on the talk show host of Iran's 24-hour English language news network. He said the U.S. trumped up the current crisis with North Korea and is responsible for the country's dire economic situation, saying that, "I believe that this is a U.S. trumped-up little crisis. They have pushed North Korea into the corner. The people in North Korea are in very dire straits, and in terms of standards of food, amount of food, and access to oil and other energy resources." He says, "Look, I don't agree with the North Korean political system, and I've been there. I've seen it up close and personal, but there have been achievements in North Korea. They do have a satellite circling the Earth. They have built a nuclear power industry, even though they suspended it on false promises from Clinton." It says here, "They do have a cohesive, pristine, actually innocent culture that has not been penetrated by globalization and by Western morals or mores, and is very interesting to see. We here in Britain live where evil also stalks the land in the form of the British government." He compared Kim Jong-un, who presides over North Korea, to former President George W. Bush. "They say the young man who is the leader of North Korea is mad, and he can't be allowed to have nuclear weapons, but George Bush was mad and he had thousands of nuclear weapons," Galloway said. U.S. does not want a war. They want regime change in North Korea. "The Obama regime has adopted a policy of provocation and escalation when it comes to North Korea," says Brian Becker, director of anti-war coalition Answer, told RT. Said the ultimate goal of the approach is not war, but regime change. I like what he says right here. Every time North Korea does anything to show its determination to defend itself, or to make the perception, at least, that it can defend itself, then the U.S. treats North Korea as the ultimate provocateurs. Something that I do want to put out there, maybe as even a disclaimer, is that I do think that something could actually happen. I mean, as far as the United States mainland getting hit or invaded, I don't think that's going to happen. But it is possible that maybe Japan or Guam or something like that could get hit, even South Korea. Right now, anything could trigger some limited military conflict, which could quickly escalate. So this is some pretty messed up stuff, because I could just see like some kind of, skull and bones or agent working in the intelligence community that's high up there saying, "Well, you know what? let's let it ride. You know, it's like they're playing these very dangerous games where Japan is in the crosshairs of North Korea. They're the ones that are going to get bombed, and and this is how they play Japan, because Japan is a conquered nation, and the people themselves don't want the United States there, but at the same time the government wants them there for protection against China and against North Korea. So they'll let them you know, kind of sweat it out, so to speak, so they could say, oh, maybe, you know, see, we need the U.S. To back us up, but the U.S. is the one that's provoking, creating all of the threats. Why they're being threatened. So these are the dirty games that go on behind the scenes. U.S. North Korea officials met secretly, says a report. This is not the first time when Kim Jong-un took office. What was it, last year or the year before? The U.S. actually had a secret flight out there. Report says U.S. officials secretly met with the North Korean deputy ambassador to the United Nations and the United States in mid-March amid tensions in the Korean Peninsula. In the meeting, U.S. officials called for North Korea to refrain from taking provocative actions, the report said, adding that Washington also urged North Korea to return to diplomacy. However, nothing came of the meeting, and U.S. officials made no new offers. And kind of reiterating and reinforcing the argument I'm trying to make here is, in bitter irony for China, North Korea furthers U.S. strategic goals. Nobody but Kim Jong-un knows what he hopes to achieve with this saber-rattling campaign, but the young North Korean leader probably didn't set out to aid the United States, the sworn enemy of the three generations of Kims, at the expense of his country's main ally, China. That's right. The biggest loser here is North Korea, because now they may have lost an ally, China. And a boon for U.S. policy that can only add to China's frustration with the North Korean, they keep using bellicose and stuff, has helped reinforce American strategy of rebalancing its security policies towards the Asia-Pacific region. Next up, we have Atlantic Alliance goes global as head of NATO dispatched to South Korea. NATO's head, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, has been dispatched to Seoul, South Korea, for high-level consultations. The official disclaimer is that this has nothing to do with the ongoing, basically, confrontation between the North and the U.S. Says here in South Korea, the trip was long planned and not connected with North Korean threats of nuclear war. It's worth noting that Rasmussen's presence in South Korea coincides with the visit by U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Pentagon estimates North Korea probably has nuke warhead capability. Says they express moderate confidence in their estimation. Defense Intelligence Agency has issued a new estimate to the Obama regime and members of Congress, saying that they believe with moderate confidence that North Korea has the technology to theoretically make a nuclear warhead. There's nothing to suggest that the new estimate is based on new intelligence, and it is unclear how, with so many others doubting North Korea's ability to successfully miniaturize the process from underground nuclear tests to a workable warhead. So the DIA has confidence that they could pull it off. This comes as the North Korean nuclear-tipped missiles would have low reliability. That's the reports coming out as well. North Korea mobilizes military to plant crops. Says war hysteria won't get in the way of spring planting. The hysteria surrounding the imminent nuclear war on the Korean Peninsula has been shrugged off by South Koreans as well as residents of Guam. The same seems to be true in North Korea, where residents are reporting nothing like the panic of the official government warnings would imply. The rhetoric seems far afield of the official policy as well. For in spite of predictions for all-out war at any moment, North Korea is mobilizing its military not for a clash of civilizations, but for the spring planting. Every year, millions of North Koreans, active military and reservists, are sent to the farmland around the region to plant rice, cabbage, and other crops. One defector to the south said North Korea can't farm without the army, and that the army's main job is malnutrition eradication. So it says here North Korea's government clearly isn't taking the threat of war seriously, as they would be transitioning from the battlefield to the planning field if a war was really going to break out at any moment. The truth behind frequent U.S. military exercises in the Asia-Pacific region. So it goes on here and it says, in a geostrategic sense, containing China in the Asia-Pacific region is the basic content of the U.S. policy towards China. There are three major means for the U.S. to conduct these deep involvement in Asia-Pacific regions. First, wide alliance to win over various countries in the Asia-Pacific region. Second, military forward deployment to realize strategic rebalancing. And third, occupy a leading position in the region to play a proactive role. The U.S. believes that the time span from the end of the Cold War to 2015 is a period of strategic opportunity during the rise and development of such powers such as China and Russia, and they will pose serious challenges to the U.S. around 2015. Among the two, China is more likely to become the challenger. U.S. actions on Korean Peninsula aimed at encircling China, Russia. So, an analyst says that North Korean leaders are not going to wage war against the U.S., and Washington is using the false flag to further encircle Russia and China in the region. Says the Chinese have good reason to understand this, that this is an encirclement of China, that the massive hardware that the U.S. has put into the area is beyond anything needed to deal with the North Korean threat, and therefore the idea that some sort of spark in North Korea could be used for a broader confrontation has to be taken seriously, especially since the U.S. has refused to make any kind of agreement with Russia to stop the deployment of the anti-ballistic missile systems around the Russian border in Europe. That's right, they haven't done anything on it. Chinese expert on North Korean affairs warns that there's a 70% chance of war. Leading Chinese expert on North Korea sounds warning as tensions rise. So there you go. That's from a different side, I guess. U.S. posing nuclear threats to China and Russia. It says here that an analyst says Washington is posing nuclear threat to China and Russia by igniting crisis on the Korean Peninsula, saying, I don't think there's any danger of a nuclear war sparked by North Korea's nuclear attack. I think there's a greater danger of a nuclear war sparked between the U.S. and China and the U.S. and Russia over Korea and Asia, said Mike Billington. Interesting, because it's just basically going off what we just talked about, the 70% chance. What I would like to point out, actually, is that there has been a concerted effort in Western press and media to falsify the warning coming from China about the danger of war in Asia. Irreparable safety issues, all U.S. nuclear reactors should be replaced. Band-aids won't help. Remember, we just covered this. This is a rare admission, highly unusual, basically coming from the chairman of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Well, why would he say this? Because what I said. Now we got this article coming out today. Obama wants more funds to upgrade U.S. atomic weapons arsenal. So he requested more funding to further upgrade American nuclear weapons at the cost of reducing spending on nuclear non-proliferation measures. So it's all about safety. Now it's about building up more dangerous weapons. Media still hype stage toppling of Saddam's statue as genuine. So the tearing down of Saddam Hussein's statue in 2003 was a propaganda event choreographed by U.S. psychological operations. Mentioned in the AP report was the fact that it was a Marine colonel, not a joyous Iraqi civilians, as widely assumed by the TV images, who decided to topple the statue back in 2004. In fact, U.S. soldiers need to use loudspeakers to gather Iraqis around the statue, a necessary ingredient if the choreographed propaganda effort was become convincing. They say it was a quick-thinking Army psychological operation team that made it appear to be a spontaneous Iraqi undertaking, says the Times. Venezuela closes borders ahead of presidential election after Maduro said a murder plot against him had been foiled. Emergency in Brazil's state after flood of foreign migrants. Brazil's northwest state has declared a social emergency Wednesday as it attempts to slow a wave of undocumented immigrants smuggled overland from neighboring countries. Came from the poorest corners of the world, including Haiti, Bangladesh. And we just covered this article. RBC replaces Canadian staff with foreign workers. It says to add insult to injury, the new people are actually training the replacements. So this is like this article from Australia. These sacked workers are forced to retrain replacements. They're required to provide knowledge transfer. Israeli tycoon to move to London. It says here, Aiden Offer, the world's richest Israeli, says here he's expected to leave the Jewish state to pay much less taxes in England. Labour Party leader Ed Miliband establishes pro-Israel credentials like never before, stating that he's basically going to be the UK's first Jewish prime minister and that he is a Zionist. Zionist entity okays 50 residents for Holocaust survivals in East Jerusalem. So it says these 50 homes will be added for the elderly, for Holocaust survivors, and the so-called Holocaust Memorial Day. Inside the last-ditch effort to go after Auschwitz guards. So 68 years after World War II. They still have a list of 50 former Auschwitz guards that are still known to be alive, and they're still pursuing them. It goes on and says, we're very happy that this thing is happening, says Simon Wiesenthal, the center's chief Nazi hunter. France's top rabbi takes leave amid scandal. He acknowledged borrowing other people's work and lying about his educational pedigree. Top Israeli rabbi, whose name is not being released, is arrested for raping teenage daughters for over a decade. 2 more babies stricken with herpes after ritual ultra-Orthodox Jewish oral blood-sucking circumcision in New York City. British organ donations jump 50% in 5 years. Cash for kidneys as organ donors are set to get wages from government. Donors will be offered cash grants of up to $3,600. This is the future, guys. Ukraine tries Israeli human traffickers. Now lively Jews arrested over organ trafficking use kids' organs to feed Israel's health system. Thank you.